Hey guys, Maggie here. So I want to thank my viewers and subscribers for voting on my latest poll on me doing a movie review on the West Side Story, the 2021 version. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. So let's get this review started, shall we? So what is West Side Story mostly about? Well, it's supposed to be based on a tragic love story. Like you can say that is based on a modern version of Romeo and Juliet. You're right on the ball on that one because that's what's mostly about. But this is what's incredible. This whole thing that takes place is in New York City during the 1950s. That's what the time frame is supposed to be, right? So, what really irritated me about this remake is just like nothing, and I mean like nothing out of the ordinary where it comes at a opening or to a close where they felt like it was the right thing to do this remake based on the original film in 1961. I didn't quite understand why they had to like make a remake out of this because I guess they were trying to get modern audiences or younger generations to like enjoy it. This particular person that's watching this movie, meaning me, I didn't like it. All right, and you probably say, "Oh, Maggie, but do you like musicals? Do you like this kind of like genre? I thought you'd be on board on this." I do. I am. I do like musicals to an extent. It has to make sense to me. For starters, like in the beginning of the film, right? This particular movie or this remake takes place in a freaking construction site at the beginning of the film. From the original movie in 1961, it takes place in a freaking playground. So, you see what I'm going with here? It's supposed to be this way that shows that teenagers are supposed to be teenagers, not just random hoodlum kids wandering about in a construction site causing chaos, doing their opening number of, how they like being a jet or whatnot. I didn't quite understand that. You know what I mean? So, like, this whole thing where you think, that people or young adults can relate to it, it does not. I don't relate to it. Maybe back when they were just hanging around on the streets and in abandoned construction sites, maybe, but probably that's on that time frame. But in the original, they just make it where like it was never like based on a theater. It was more like that people can relate to. Something that you see, young kids nowadays, hanging around the playground or going somewhere like in a freaking deli or bodega, you name it, right? You've seen them all the time. Why does that have to be in a freaking construction site? I don't relate to that kind of crap, honestly. But other than that, that kind of throws me off is the ensemble between the Jets and the Sharks. These two rivalry gangs, of these teenagers, I didn't quite fond of it. And you probably want to know why. It's mostly because of these acting and these dancing. They didn't have quite the iconic look to it. Because in the original, they know how to, portray teenagers. They know how to like get influence how teenagers supposed to act. Because in the original you get to see how the Jets and the Sharks have this kind of energy where they even though they don't like each other, they at least have a way to like make it symbolic. They make it where these young kids are full of energy, like to be all silly. They like to cause trouble. They will like, sometimes cause like tension, like fighting or whatnot, even though, sometimes the cops will get involved in this kind of thing. As in for this remake, they didn't have none of it. I'm sorry. I don't know what they were thinking about because I felt like it was so out of touch because they just put these young guys in the big screen thinking they know something, they know the whole, theater from the back of their hand or whatever. They didn't get none of it, especially the two leaders who plays the for the ensemble of these Jets and Sharks. Like for Riff and for Bernardo. I'm gonna start with Riff, played by Mike Fiast or whatever his name is. You know, he didn't have the qualifications to play Riff. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do his nationality or ethnicity. It's just based on his personality playing Riff because Riff's supposed to be this iconic character where he is this comedic guy who is like always falling on his face and being the silly goose that you see on the playground or in school that he's like a class clown obviously. He's supposed to have that. But in the remake, he's this serious guy who is so stern or whatever, and he thinks that he's a smartass or something, thinking that he wants to like care about his own skin, nothing else. He just wants to like be this laid back guy. That's what I'm getting at. I didn't quite see that. And for Bernardo, these two have nothing in common. There's nothing similarities besides their ethnicity. I'm sorry. I don't know where they're getting at. The Bernardo in the original, he was the guy that you should be afraid of. You should be like walking away, making sure that you don't say anything bad about him because he'll get you. Like literally, like he would like literally like find you on the street and he will like stand in behind the shadows. That's the Bernardo I'm looking for. As in for the remake, this idiot doesn't have it. I'm sorry. He's just your typical straight up Puerto Rican, trying to be that stereotype where he goes to every bodega and tries to talk, bad about you behind your back, and then all of a sudden he throws a tantrum whenever his sister talks back about him. I don't quite get that. That's just plain ghetto in my mind because I don't see none of it. He was never this tough Bernardo in this remake. He was just this weak looking character. And do you know who else is weak in this ensemble for the Sharks? Is Chino. This actor who plays Chino, and I'm gonna be honest, he doesn't have the same qualifications as well for the original Chino because the Chino I saw in the original was very, stern, but at the same time, he was always this way of following Bernardo's shadow all the time. Whereas this one, he looks like a sad puppy who doesn't give a crap, who's always thinking that he wants to be like Bernardo, who thinks that, he wants to be this religious, this kind of like all like nerdy kind of guy who hides behind his mom's skirt or whatever. That's what it feels like to me. I didn't quite get that. I really don't. So let's talk about the lovebirds, Tony and Maria. Tony is played by, Ansel Algott or whatever his name is, and then Maria is played by no other than the diva herself, which I am shocked that she's in this movie. I am kid you not. We have Rachel freaking Zegler playing Maria. And what I don't like about these two, and I'm being honest, I felt like I was gonna throw up out of agony because they look like they don't have anything in common. They look like the poorest, the saddest couple I ever seen on big screen in my entire life. Like, there was nothing there to begin with. I don't like it at all. I felt like it was just rushed. It was being felt like someone is leaning over their shoulder to push them to be romantic. It was just being forced. I didn't like it. They didn't have no chemistry. As for the original, we have Natalie Wood, right? And her co-star. And those two, I gotta say, these guys know how to make chemistry work. They know what romance is all about because it's like icing on the cake. It was just marvelous because they know how to be passionate. They know how to look at each other's eyes. They know how to be romantic. Like every couple will like, fall in love and head over heels for these two and be rooting for them. For these idiots on the big screen for this remake, they didn't have none of it. They were like stiff. They were like two wood panels that you see in Home Depot and you just want to make them want to kiss. That's how devastating that is. It's just plain like idiotic and stupid. They didn't try even hard enough to like pull in the effort to be romantic. It was just being forced. I'm sorry. As for the best friend, Anita, the freaking girlfriend for Bernardo, I didn't like it. She was never this fiery, amazing Latina that I see in the original. I didn't kid you not. Because the original Anita was perfect. She was very like sassy, very humble, very energetic, and she's always this girl that you see in the block, very popular. She will always stand out. She will make sure you're close with her at all costs. She will have your back. As of this one, she was just this mom that you see in every corner of your neighborhood and she'll know everyone's business and she'll make sure that you come home on time or whatnot. That's what I'm getting at. This isn't the Anita I know, right? And let's talk about the songs. Alrighty, guys. So, for what I saw, that Steven Spielberg tries to like include like the songs throughout the movie, but it was definitely not your songs that you see in the original because in the remake it was just all over the place. I didn't quite understand why they put the Jess song within the, you know, tonight's song with a Somewhere song with the Maria song, with I Feel Pretty song. It was like all over the place, and then they had this flash mob when they decided to put the America song, making it into this extraordinary big thing where it has to be filmed in a street or whatever when it does not. This, location of each song was like mishmashed together, and it was just so sluggish and slow. Like the length of this movie was only an hour and 53 minutes, if I say it correctly, because I can't understand why they did that. I don't like, I was like, that's too unbearable to watch. You know what I mean? I feel like covering my head saying like this is supposed to be, an amazing cinematic movie that people can understand what this movie is all about. And of course, overall, with all these the ending alone, and I'm going to tell you guys right now how I felt about it. It was so dull. You understand? It was just that, sluggish, just no cinematic whatsoever. It was just too theatrical, if you get my drift. It was just meant for, a school play that you see, on Broadway. That's how it felt to me. It felt like it was just meant for a stage, not on big screen. I'm sorry. You know why? Because the whole thing where Tony gets shot 2 times by Chino, it felt like the whole thing where he is stumbling, trying to like stand, try to like be able to walk and being shot, it felt like he was like a zombie. Like for crying out loud. Like someone just shot him like so many times and he was just standing there like an idiot. And then Richard Zegler's expression was just too emotionless. It was just not, feels like terrified or like heartbroken. I didn't quite get that from her towards the end of the movie. I didn't get none of it, you know? Especially when she tries to like get angry at the entire, people of the ensemble of the Jets and the Sharks, blaming them for causing this tension. I didn't get none of it. You know what I mean? That's how embarrassing it was. You know what I mean? I guess, whatever Steven Spielberg did throughout the movie, it was just never meant to be. And if I could give this movie a rating right now, I'm gonna give it a 1 star. And that's how bad it is. So anyone that's planning to see this on demand, it's best that you just find another movie to watch because it's just not worth it. It really doesn't. So what do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. How you guys, react to my movie review. I appreciate any positive feedback. I appreciate that a lot. So you guys are awesome. And of course, as well, if you guys really enjoyed this video, to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, as well, down in the description, please follow my social media platforms. Don't forget to contact me through them. And of course, as well, please check in the description down below to subscribe to my husband, Kyle Kennedy, guys. Be part of his wolf pack by checking his latest live streams on Final Fantasy, his cooking videos, and if you guys in the agency for looking for a writer, my husband's the right man for the job. So give him a contact, okay? Love you, Kimmy. Mwah. So to say help our leader, Maggie Negan, though walking the pack on 20 cents off. See you guys in the next video. Love you, honey. Peace out.